Hey Acers, and welcome to this week's Irregular Ace Report for the Ace Role Playing Games Club. And ACE stands for Achieve, Create, and Entertain, and here we're gaming for good. I'm your host, Mason Emerson, and I am the founder of the Ace Role Playing Games Foundation and program, where I help you build your own role playing game club. And I teach you how to game master using Savage Worlds, no sponsorship, but I do teach you the basic principles using that Savage Worlds that will allow you to be able to adapt that to any game that you play. And lately, I have been working on an adventure for one of my projects this year. And the adventure is going to be involving kind of 5 steps. And I realize that this is kind of how it works. Because if you go to like a musical instrument or a piano and you just play one note and hold that one note down, it doesn't actually, it's not music. It's just a note. Music is where you have spaces and beats and tempos and things like that mixed in there. So the same goes for adventures in role-playing games. You don't want it to just be one continuous fight. You want it to be a fight with some downtime, and a fight with some downtime, or a fight with some downtime of investigation and mystery, and then maybe a social conflict where you are trying to persuade people to do something that you need them to do, and then you can finish it off with another fight. You can kind of bookend it with fights. And it's like writing a 5-paragraph essay where you tell us in short summary the problem you're addressing. You give us the first supporting evidence, you give us this main supporting evidence in the middle, then you give us a little bit more supporting evidence, and then you wrap it up by telling us what you just told us. And that's the note that I wrote just recently when I was writing this, was that steps in writing an adventure incident, or in writing an adventure, are starting with an inciting incident of some sort. Usually this is best with you can even start it in media res, which is fancy writing speak for in the middle of the action, in the middle of the story. And you can start it that way with either action or an action-based skill or a mystery. Usually, though, a small fight is a good way to get things going. I mean, a lot of longer adventures start in a tavern, but if you can find ways of starting them on the road already, or you can find a way of starting them as even make it like a movie, and that fist is hitting them just as the story starts. Pow! That is a good way of getting them going, because pow is how you want to engage them. And if they're not looking at their phones like this all the way through the game, then you're holding their attention, and that's the good way. So the second thing you're going to do is you're going to give, from that fight, the aftermath of the fight, you're going to give them clues that they need to investigate. So there's like the investigation bit, there's maybe another bit of action in the middle, and then, but that can be a different kind of action, solved a different way. And then there's also going to be like a social conflict or something like that that can come in there. And then finally it ends with the climax and the little bit of aftermath of it. But you want to be able to go from that inciting incident to any of the 3 middle parts, and then finally to the end. And so what that does is, in the case of my story, in the case of my one adventure I'm writing, I am writing it where there's going to be action, but it's going to be done in using the Savage Worlds mechanic of a dramatic task to save some people, and then their information that they give you is going to be what sends you to the archives or to the research library to research what's going on here and find out what you need to know about where you're going and what you might have seen. And then you have an attack that happens, but in a different way, and something that you can solve not using fighting, because fighting actually isn't going to be effective. And then finally, you're going to find out the final plot of the villains, and you're going to race to stop them. And of course, things are going to feel like maybe you're not going to stop them, but you will stop them, even if I have to bring in another creature or something to make sure that the bad guys get stopped, and then you guys rescue the bad guys, whatever it is. But then finally, they're going to come back. There's going to be a social conflict, and just when you think you've won, you're not going to win, because these are nemesis, perennial villains that are the kind that they got away with it this time. But you're going to keep an eye on them, because you are, in the end, they may win the battles, but you're going to win the war. So that's just a quick breakdown of an idea of how to build adventures. Now, the thing is that that's not the only way to build an adventure. That there are plenty of other ways to do it. Like, this is one of the reasons why I recommend that you go out and purchase the Savage Worlds property of Deadlands Noir. In there is a section on building adventures. It is one of the best ones for, it's, specifically because you're detectives. You want to build these adventures with for gumshoes for detectives. And I just realized I didn't put my lighting on, but that's okay. I've been going long enough that a little bit of lighting is going to still help. There we go, a little bit better. Anyway, so you're building gumshoe detective mysteries, and so you start with who engages the heroes. And then you give them the crime that they're going to solve. That for some reason they can't go to the police, or they won't go to the police. Maybe they're a criminal and they can't go to the police, but for whatever reason they won't go to the police. Then you have the crime, whether it's a murder or a theft or whatever. Then you as the game master need to know who actually did it, and then you need to know why they did it. And then finally, you need to look into what kind of clues you're going to give. Now, the Alexandrian, he's got a great list of, or like rule of how to give clues in a mystery. And the thing is that the cool thing about mysteries is they kind of apply all the way across the board. Is that even if you think that your game, being a science fiction game, couldn't benefit from having a mystery as its core backbone, that's where you're incorrect, because mystery sits at the root of almost all storytelling, because it's a heck of an adventure when you're trying to find out why done it, because it's usually quick to know who done it, but you got to be able to prove it. You got to be able to figure out why they did it. That's what makes a true mystery adventure good. So you got to figure out a way of giving 3 clues to the next clue. So that's what you're going to be looking for. You're going to have 3 clues that they're going to be 3 clues that can be found at every spot, that all point, like if it's a matchbook pointing to the bar where you got to go talk to the bartender. Yeah, I know I was talking about tavern stuff earlier, but in mysteries, the bartender knows everybody. Well, that's tavern too, but kind of a different thing because you're not starting there. Anyway, another clue could be a receipt from the bar. Another clue could be a ticket to a show at the bar. All 3 of those are clues, physical hard clues. Or maybe like a call from, maybe if they really do well on their investigation role, their research role, as they're investigating the house, they're going to be able to, they'll find the answering machine. They push play on the button. Maybe this is further in the future than the 1930s. And so you get answering machines, and you can push play on the button, and the answering machine plays back a message of, hey, you're going to meet me at the bar tonight, right? Or you'll find their schedule book or something that tips your characters off to say, go to the bar. As a game master, one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever gotten that I pass on to you is don't try and be clever. Don't try and think, if it's not a Rube Goldberg machine. And if you don't know who Rube Goldberg is, look him up. He's really cool. But a Rube Goldberg machine basically means, well, it's kind of like the one in Goonies, where they pick up the bucket that rolls the weighted ball down, that in turn inflates the balloon, that pops, that causes the chicken to startle and stand up and roll the egg down the roll thing, that starts the sprinkler, that twists the pulley on the gate and opens the gate. And while cool, your mystery could be that cool, but I highly advise against it. Just, you don't have to give them the why, and you don't even have to give them the who yet. They can discover that. But give them the who is the person who brings them in and what they need them to solve. Everything else is just details. So that's also what's going on with my friends who are playing in my Savage Worlds East Texas University Degrees of Horror game. They are going through and they're finding piece by piece, bit by bit, the mystery at the root of what they're going to have to solve and face. That doesn't mean that if they solve the mystery, they can't still face a demonic entity and have to fight him in the end. But make sure that they're strong enough to be able to handle it when they get there. They've had enough advances. And because if they do figure it out early and they decide to jump in as novice characters, that legendary demonic presence is going to wipe the floor with them. But if you give them the right clues in the right way, they're going to be able to follow up on that. So that's my thoughts on adventure writing and clue giving. And I recommend that you go out, and I'm going to try and link Alexandrian and John 4, who does a 5-room dungeon really well in here, and Burn After Playing. I'm going to try and link all three of those down here below. And I just want to thank you all for being members of the Ace Role Playing Games Clubs. I hope to see more of them getting set up. Shout out to my boys up in Roy who are getting it set up, and we're going to be able to have a lot more fun the more club members we get. So keep an eye on the Discord server. My email address will be in the show notes as well. That's my official Ace Role Playing Games Club email address for now until I get acerpg.org set up. Once I get that set up, then we'll be going through that, and I'll have an acerpg.org email address that'll be publicly available on the front page for either you or your parents to ask me any questions about this that they want. We want to try and get you to go ahead and find a parent or another adult who's willing to be a sponsor. They have to be able to get a background check, and you guys have to be able to find a publicly accessible venue where there will be other grown-ups. And then we can work on getting the second grown-up sponsor, because we want to have two. And we want to make sure it's in the place where other grown-ups are going to be. So that way you guys are safe and everybody can be safe, because that's what this is for. This is for you to have a safe space, a safe place to be able to grow your storytelling muscles and tell that story together. So until next time, this is Mason Emerson with Ace Role Playing Games, where we're gaming for good. I'll see you next time. And remember, I love you and you're amazing. And I wouldn't want to have this club without you.